Welcome to Views from the World Tree. This week, we swallow the red pill and take a look at the surprisingly plausible theory that we may all be living in a computer simulation. And now, on with the show.
I gotta say, that intro, your voice in that microphone, that was damn sexy.
Thanks. I tried to channel my inner Morpheus. You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Oh, that's good. You can tell how cheap my microphone is now. I guess I'll start with our personal news section. Today, we're recording this on Veterans Day, so in case you were curious on when we record on Thursdays. I had the day off, and I was sitting here, and I was kind of watching TV, kind of just taking it easy. And I pulled up my Netflix account, and I realized that I have like 50 shows and movies that are on my list that I have put there for me to watch, but I've never watched them. So today, I decided I was going to get rid of some of those on my list. So I watched a documentary called Ladies First. It's about, I can't remember her name right now, but it's the number one, or at the time that they recorded that, the number one female archer. She's from a small town in India. And it's just kind of about her growing up in the poorest province in India, where women are expected to stay at home and not participate in sports. They're not supposed to do anything except for housework and get married so that they can make their family money by dowries, right? And so it's just kind of about how she found archery and all that. So it was a really cool little documentary. 48 minutes, not too bad. And then I watched another couple episodes of the new Sabrina the Teenage Witch remake, The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I think. But yeah, that was kind of my news for today, is trying to bust through some of my list thing.
Nice. I actually recently watched some of the Sabrina remake as well. My wife and I were watching it in the weeks leading up to Halloween. So
It's not bad. It's not quite the Sabrina that we grew up with, but
yeah, I think this one might be based on a comic or graphic novel or something. And I think it ties in with that other Netflix show that's based on the Archie comics that I can't remember the name of.
Riverdale, I think.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. So that's not on my list because Archie comics was never one of my favorite things to watch or read.
Yeah. Well, I also had the day off today. It was a paid holiday that my employer gave us, which was awesome. And my day today consisted mostly of puppy training. We're working on potty training and crate training, so things are going well there. And did a bunch of yard work because, like we were talking in the pre-show, it seems like as I get older and I'm forced to be more responsible, it seems like days off are not really days off anymore. They're days for chores. But anyway, and then the only other thing really that was happening this week, a little bit of video game news. So I started playing World of Warcraft again, just catching up on the storyline. There was a recent patch that came out. And a new game, actually, a new mobile game was released called Pikmin Bloom. It's by the same folks that make Pokemon Go. So I picked that up and I've been playing that. It's kind of fun. It's like Pokemon, but you instead of going around and catching Pokemon, you go around and plant flowers everywhere that show up on the little map in the game. So it's fun. It's an excuse to get out and go walking. That's about it for my week.
That is fun. I jumped on that Pokemon craze when it first came out, and then went, "Oh yeah, I don't really like Pokemon that much." So it lasted for about a month for me, but I like those games where you get to go out and kind of be a part of the game. I think they call them augmented reality or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's the term. The Pokemon one was, I don't know. I feel like you and I just barely missed that train. Seems like because I know my younger siblings were all really into it, but I think I was just barely at the age where I was too cool for Pokemon when the original anime and original games came out.
Yeah, trying to think. I think the Game Boy game came out. Red and Blue came out when I was a freshman in high school, so I think between sports practice and the angst of being a high schooler, I just didn't have time to get into it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So,
I think I was just headed into my emo phase, so the two don't really go well together, I guess.
I don't know. For those that can't see the video, you've got some wicked cool eyeliner right now.
Uh,
Did you ever
that's
get
just the
out of the
bags under
emo
my eyes
phase?
from being an overworked millennial.
I only kid for the podcast listeners. I only kid. He's not wearing guy liner, at least not today.
Not today. Only when I guess get dressed up to go raiding the distant shores.
Yeah, channeling your inner Floki.
Yep, you know it.
Well, sounds like our personal news is a whole lot of video games and work.
Yes, I see. Good news, everyone!
I'll jump into our current events this week. So, before I jump in, Adam, did you ever watch Long Way Up on Apple TV?
I that's the motorcycle one, right? With Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
I have not. It's on my list to watch.
Okay. Well, to preface this news story, Ewan McGregor and his best friend challenged themselves to go from Argentina to LA on electric motorbikes. And their chase vehicles were also electrically charged vehicles. And the company that they used was called Rivian, and they are the first electric vehicle company to make a fully functional electric truck. So their chase vehicles were all electric, motorcycles were all electric. It would have been a really great idea if they chose a continent that actually had the infrastructure to do electric vehicles, because they run into some issues. I'll have to say, but today when I was kind of going through the news sources, I saw that Rivian has taken their electric truck out of the prototype stage, and they're actually getting ready to launch it early next year. So they'll beat Ford's the E150, and they're definitely ahead of Elon Musk's truck, that the indestructible truck with the broken window.
Oh, that thing. I don't know if that counts as a truck. But
Anyway, so they just became publicly traded in a 2-day rally. Their 38-year-old CEO, the founder of Rivian, is now worth $2.2 billion because of the popularity of Long Way Up, as well as like this idea of an electric vehicle. It's more utility vehicle. So I thought that was kind of cool.
nice. Yeah, they must have been doing like a YouTube ad campaign, or well, not ad, sponsorship campaign. I don't know. They had a bunch of YouTube influencers that they all flew out to. I think it might actually have been in Colorado. Now that I think about it, and they put them all in a truck and told them basically, we're going on this off road trip. Just film it. Tell us what you think. And it seemed definitely a lot more capable than the Cybertruck. So to me, it comes back to range is honestly the only thing that's holding me back. So, because I mean, I live in an area where, it'll probably be one of the last areas in the country, honestly, where electric vehicles become popular. But it's just hard without the charging infrastructure.
That's fair. As of right now, they're saying that the Rivian's range, when paired with 21-inch wheels, is 314 miles on a full charge.
Okay. So it's about 70, 80 miles less than my F-150 that has the big V8 in it.
Yeah.
But then again, where I live, gasoline's a lot more easy to come by than electric charging for vehicles.
I just think it's cool. I mean, I think the electric F-150 electric version, I think, is only 250. So it's got about 100 miles on Ford's version, which in my mind makes it plausible for a farmer to want to buy it.
Yeah, they're definitely getting close. If we're just talking like a daily driver, I would have no problem with it. But if we're talking something that I would take off-road to remote locations and possibly hauling a load, pulling a trailer,
No,
it's not quite there yet. Close.
Nope.
Give it 5 to 10 years.
Once they figure out how to use solar panels to charge the car battery, you're good to go.
Yeah. I guess that's throws it to me for my current event. So I came across a news article in the Apple News app that it used AI or whatever to pick for me. The excuse me, the digital special effects studio Weta Digital. I hope I'm saying that right. This was the digital studio that worked on Lord of the Rings. It's owned by Peter Jackson. The studio was acquired by Unity, which makes a very popular video game engine to the tune of $1.6 billion with a B, which is a lot of money. I'm excited for it. The Unity engine, like I said, is really popular for games on all types of different platforms, from mobile to console to PC. And the cool thing that Unity does is they make it free for game creators that make, I want to say it's less than like $100,000 in sales annually. So for these small indie developers to be able to leverage this really cool digital effects assets as part of their development pipelines is going to be really cool. It'll be exciting to see what some of these studios come up with.
That's exciting. One of my favorite games is Stardew Valley, and that was done by a single person company. So giving people a chance to kind of showcase their skill set is going to do nothing but great things for the industry.
Yeah.
And now for the main part of the show, where we discuss this simulation we call life. I have to admit, to prepare for this week's episode, I reinstalled Sims 4 on my computer, and I have been terrorizing little people's lives, being the controller that I am. And then Adam, he sent me a text just as I was laying down to bed one night saying, "Hey, read this book before next week." And so I downloaded it, and I've been plugging away at it. It's called Off to See the Wizard. I think we talked about it on show not too long ago, but so both of those are great. I feel like they prepared me for this week's topic, where we discuss: are we living in a simulation? Adam, are we living in a simulation?
I don't know. It depends on who you talk to. It may be more plausible than most people think. So
I know Elon Musk is a proponent of this conspiracy theory.
Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, lots of people, lots of smart people. So, so maybe we'll give just a bit of background.
That's probably wise before we start getting into this.
Okay. So this is usually either called the simulation theory or the simulation hypothesis. The basic gist is that life as we know it is a simulation, most like a computer simulation, video game, what have you. And there's two different ways that people usually think about it. The first version is an NPC version. NPC stands for non-player character or computer character. And so in that version of the hypothesis, we are entirely contained within the simulation and we don't exist outside of it. And then the other version is sometimes referred to as the RPG version, which is, if you've seen the movie The Matrix, it's pretty much exactly that, where, we do exist in the real world, but we're not aware of it. We're not cognizant of it. And so as far as our consciousness knows, our existence is limited to what's in the simulation.
So basically, the tube is somewhere between a Ready Player One situation, where, except without us being able to enter in and out, kind of stuck in the program.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the other one is like Free Guy, that new movie where or I guess not really, because that would be, he would be an NPC where people are able to access the program from the outside.
Yeah, so in that one, I guess the character of Guy would be kind of the first version where he only exists inside the simulation. Except it is kind of a weird case because he does find out about the real world. Hopefully that's not too big a spoiler for anybody that hasn't seen it, but
I feel like the previews did a good job of explaining that.
A really good depiction of the NPC version of the hypothesis is There's an old Star Trek Next Generation episode called Ship in a Bottle, where uh, Data, the character, is, I'm sure everybody knows, is like this super intelligent android. And in the TV show, they have this holodeck, which is a holographic computer simulation tool that they can go and visit for recreation. And so they say they have the computer try and create an artificial intelligence that's able to outthink Data. Data is really into in this episode arc. He's really into Sherlock Holmes, and so he likes to pretend to be Sherlock Holmes. And so the computer creates this storyline, this mystery for Data to try and solve. But because they said make the artificial intelligence actually capable of outsmarting Data, they unknowingly have the computer create this super intelligent, self aware AI that inhabits the character of Professor Moriarty from the Sherlock Holmes films. And then at one point, after he becomes self aware, he finds out that he's able to control the ship that they're on. He's able to control the Enterprise and put it in jeopardy. So it's a really great episode if anybody hasn't seen it.
I think I've seen that actually. I wasn't sure going through the space or the show notes, but I think I've seen that one.
Yeah,
it is a good one. All right, so we've kind of covered what the two theories are. So we are either really awesome artificial intelligence to where we don't realize that we're in a simulation, or we're on the outside in the real world, but we have no idea what the real world is. I guess the earliest I was aware of this was maybe late 90s, about the time that The Sims came out, and people started to hypothesize that what if we're in a Sims game and God or our deity or whatever is just some kid with bad acne, like playing a computer simulation. Has it? I mean, I assume that it's come deeper than just that, or has been around longer.
Yeah. So the idea has been around for quite a while. The term simulation hypothesis was coined by a professor at Oxford named Nick Bostrom in 2003. But like you said, there was the Sims games. There was the Matrix movie, which came out in 1999. And that was probably the first instance that I became aware of it, or at least that was the first time that it was presented to me, and it gave me pause to think about. But maybe that's just because I really liked the movie. It's probably in my top 5 all-time favorite movies.
Oh, of course, any movie where you can dream of plugging into a computer and learning how to do flawless kung fu in a series of like 20 seconds. I mean, that's my dream.
Yeah. So in researching this, I found that as far as I guess we'll say the proponents of the theory, so talking about people like Musk, like Dr. Tyson, when they talk about it and try to get serious about it. So there's an episode of Star Talk, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast, where they talked about this. And he said, and I'm going to try and rephrase this. Hopefully I don't butcher it. But he basically said, if we make a series of assumptions, so if we assume, first of all, that there's life on other planets in the universe, there's however many uh, billions or trillions of stars in the universe, and each of them has multiple planets. So, he says we're going to assume that is life on other planets, and that there have been other civilizations before us. Seems like a safe bet. So then, if we assume that, barring some natural disaster or barring us killing off our planet or killing each other off, there's really no outside influence that would halt our development. And so we're also going to assume that um, we're going to progress technologically essentially forever. The rate of our progression, maybe it increases, maybe it decreases, whatever, but we're going to progress. And eventually we're going to reach a level of development where we would be able to create simulations that are indistinguishable from reality. And so then he said, okay, so if you assume this and you assume that we're going to get there at one point, at some point, the characters in that simulation are going to progress and develop technology within their simulated world, and then they're going to create their own simulations. And it just goes, it's like Inception, right? It goes one level after the other, just keep getting all these permutations. And so then this is the reason that Dr. Tyson says he thinks that we are living in a simulation, is because if you take all of the civilizations that could have existed across the entire universe and all of the simulations that could have been created and all the permutations on that, and you imagine that all of those instances are like a dartboard, and you close your eyes, you throw a dart, are you more likely to hit one of the actual realities, or are you more likely to hit one of the simulated realities? Obviously one of the simulated realities, right? Because it grows exponentially. So that was my feeble attempt at restating what his argument was, trying to convince people of why he thinks that we're in a simulated reality.
Wow. So I didn't do as much research as you did. I just looked at the basics. And one of my weakest subjects growing up has always been philosophy, and this is like getting to the huge level of philosophy, right?
Yeah.
But listening to that, I mean, this idea that if it's happened, and we wouldn't be aware of it, right? Type of thing. I don't know. It's blowing my mind, and it's making me second guess every decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
But I know it kind of follows with religion too. Like if we're in a simulation, if we're in a video game type of thing, and we're living through this, and we don't quite know if we're alone or whatnot. I mean, this simulation theory could explain all major religions, like karmic, the theory of karma in the Eastern religions, your book of life in some of the Abrahamic faiths, where you're going to be judged on your good deeds, bad deeds, whatnot, and decide where you're going to be at the end of your life. Like, I don't know. It feels very plausible with the human nature of trying to explain things. I mean, this could be a whole new movement of trying to explain things. feel like I just rambled. Sorry.
No, you're good. I didn't come off rambly at all. So, one of the things that makes this fascinating to me is kind of like you brought up it. So most conspiracy theories tend to be maybe not rooted in, but they tend to be kind of contained within a specific field. So you've got like Roswell, or some of like the government CIA spy program conspiracy. They tend to like fit into these little silos. And the thing about this one that is fascinating is it really transcends any one field. It stretches across, like you said, philosophy, theology, physics, technology, everything. And the more you read about it, it's kind of become popularized, and experts from all of these fields are all weighing in on whether they think it's real or not. And I mean, some fields are more likely than others to buy in, and some are not. Obviously, religious leaders are probably unlikely to be proponents of this theory, but you've got some of the best minds in the world that are saying, well, it would be weird if it was true, but at the same time, it would make a lot of sense. And also, we don't have any way to disprove it. So, maybe.
Right.
I think Dr. Tyson said it has better than 50-50 odds. And Elon Musk said that it's like 1 in a billion that it's not true, but he's a little eccentric. So we'll go with Dr. Tyson for now.
So this popped up on the MSN homepage not too long ago, and I actually had to look it up again. Space.com. They did after Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan's show and basically talked about this theory about living in a computer simulation. Their best minds got together to figure out all the stars, all the projections, all the time, space, everything, and said the visibility alone, not all the actions, but the visible alone, that a computer running the simulation, the way that we understand it from within the conspiracy, or from within the simulation, I should say, is roughly 6 times 10 raised to the 80th bits of information, or 600 million trillion 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 bits of processing power of storage to run the simulation. And a lot of people would go, well, that disproves it right there, right? Like, there's no computer that could ever run that. And I'm going, if we're in a simulation, we're not going to have the same computer program or the same understanding of computers that whatever advanced society would that created the simulation in the first place.
That's true. Yeah. And it may not even be silicon-based computers at that point, right? I mean, quantum computing is a thing today. Like, quantum computers exist. So it's very likely that our understanding of what a computer is and what they can do is, laughable by the hypothetical level of technology that a civilization would have to be able to develop these simulated realities.
All right, I do have to ask. It leads us to the possibility of an inception moment, right? If we're in a simulation and we eventually get to the point where we have enough computing power to create a simulation, are we making a game within the game?
Maybe. Well, and actually, I mean, you bring that up, but that already happens, right? So I know Minecraft is a game, and these Minecraft players, I've never really got into it, but I've seen some of the things that they've made in that game. Like people are making games within Minecraft.
That's true. Fully functional computers using just simple circuit system that Minecraft has programmed in it.
Yep, exactly. So, I mean, that's the crazy thing about this theory that I love reading about, because you think you have it disproved in your mind, and then you look into it and you're like, well, actually, that fits.
Right.
So,
Oh man. Yeah, this week's it kind of blew me away. I don't know if that I would label it a conspiracy theory. I feel like this week is more of a philosophy,
yeah.
possibly even pseudo religion. I mean, I could see people creating cults or like religions to honor the simulation creators type of thing.
I'm sure they're already out there.
Yeah.
If the flying spaghetti monster has one, then why not? But
I was gonna say
so
dudism.
yeah,
It's kind of an example.
yeah. One other thing that blew my mind this time as I was reading about, because I've read about this quite a bit, but I picked up a book by Rizwan Virk, who's an MIT computer scientist and app developer, all this stuff. Anyway, he wrote a book called The Simulation Hypothesis. Yeah, Simulation Hypothesis. An MIT computer scientist shows why AI, quantum physics, and Eastern mystics agree we are in a video game. Anyway, it's on Audible, and he was saying that. So one of the popular arguments against this hypothesis is the sheer computing power that would be required to pull something like this off. And he throws this total like mind stuff in there. I almost blew our family friendly rating right there.
Mind things.
He throws this concept that says, basically he said, well, really, like, how many people has the average person actually met and interacted with in the world? Maybe a few thousand. And so he said, what's to stop all of the other, 6.99 billion people from just being other Sims? And, you have maybe a few people that are, quote unquote real and plugged into the matrix. And those other 6.9 billion people are just versions of a program that get called into existence when one of the real people encounters them.
Oh. It's making my head hurt.
So, I mean, that throws the whole computing power argument out the window.
Right.
But
they're just they're a little on-off switch that just gets turned on when we have to interact with them.
Yep.
And then that gets turned off and we never see them again.
I'm telling you.
I don't like it. It's almost too plausible, It's almost too... I'm going to say deep down, I don't think we're in a simulation,
But that's
but
just because you've been
it's
programmed to think that.
right. But it's almost so plausible that you can't help but second guess.
Yeah, agreed.
I guess that kind of makes me one of the questions that I wanted to ask as we were going through this. Philosophically speaking, if we became aware that we were in a simulation and say it's the video game one, we became aware that we're within a simulation, but we don't exist outside of the simulation. Like, would that cause similar to time travel? Let's say you saw yourself in your youth as a time traveler, or one of those like little weird loops, butterfly effects. Like, would it cause that existential crisis if you were to actually figure it out and know for truth that you're in a simulation, but if the simulation were to stop, that you would cease to exist?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe the realization of that would cause your own personal subroutine to just seg fault and crash. Who knows?
Logic bomb of a computer system.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like Tron and there's the master control program out there that, flies around looking for self-aware little programs. And I don't know. I think most of our listeners are probably way too young to have seen that movie.
I don't know. They came out with a second one not
Oh,
too
that's
long
true.
ago.
They did with what's his name? Jeff Bridges.
Yeah, he was in it again. I can't remember who the young one was.
I don't remember either. I don't think I actually saw that one. I've seen the original several times, but anyway, not to get too off topic.
It's off topic and it's still on topic. It's like a weird. I mean, we're talking about being able to go into your computer game to,
True. Yeah.
I don't know. All right, so I feel like we've rambled on quite a bit, and this is totally one that we could probably talk almost the entire night about because both of us are just nerdy enough to be like, oh, what about this? What about this? What about this?
Yeah.
But we end most of our conspiracy theory sections with plausible, is it reality, or completely fake?
So on this one, I'm going to go plausible because while experts agree that it cannot be definitively disproved, it also cannot be definitively proven true. So while it has an internal logical consistency to it, and while it would explain a lot of the arbitrary rules of Newtonian physics, I think it has to stay plausible. But I'm also going to say that of all of the ones that we've talked about, and probably of most of the others that we'll talk about, this one is the most plausible in my mind.
Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. I do not believe it to be reality, but I do believe it to be absolutely possible. And that's really weird to say because it is, I don't know, it is such a strange thought that reality as we know it may not actually be reality.
It's a weird one because, like you say, I cannot think of any reason why this wouldn't be true. But something in the back of my mind is there's just this little nagging voice that like refuses to believe that I'm not real,
Yeah.
refuses to believe that I'm a computer program.
Well, there's, I can't remember what philosopher it was who defined reality as I think, therefore I am. The fact that you and I have conscious thought, the fact that we can project these thoughts and form sentences and explain reasoning means that we are real, whether we're in a computer program or not. Like that self-actualization says that we're real.
Yeah, that's true. And honestly, until humanity, whatever we are, develops an AI that can do that, I think this one's still just going to stay plausible.
Yeah.
So, but when that day comes,
we're going to be in the movie Inception. The world's going to be turning all around on itself, folding in on itself, and it's going to be fun. Yeah. Two big plausibles. So I guess we'll end this episode with our mindfulness moment. It was my week to look up a mindfulness moment, and I was thinking, I've been playing a video game called Crusader Kings 3, and in it you can be a ruler from history, basically anywhere in the known world. And one of the religions that they have is Taoism. And I was sitting there and I rolled a random ruler and I was playing as this Taoist dynasty. And it got me kind of curious. I don't know much about Taoism. I thought that it was kind of a philosophy, but they do a lot of, they call it chi focusing or key focusing. It's one of the things that you hear in martial arts, basically using your internal energies to better yourself, so you can do that through meditation or whatnot. And so I was just thinking back to when I was doing martial arts and some of the meditations that I did. You can kind of suppress your pain receptors. You can suppress a lot of stuff just by sitting and being and kind of focusing on the movement of this internal energy in and out. So it's not a thought per se, but I was just curious if you had ever done anything Zen focus mode meditation or anything along those lines yourself.
I mean, I've done meditation and mindfulness, but I'll be honest, I don't know enough about it to know like what specific type of meditation I'm doing or what practice I'm following. So maybe.
Well, that's fair. No, I really just threw this in. I knew that this episode was going to get super philosophical, but one of the things, I guess to share with you all, one of the things that I like to do before I go to bed or when I wake up is just for 1 minute just to sit and let my mind go blank. I read a book called The Art of Happiness. It's by a Tibetan monk. I can't remember his name. It's not the Dalai Lama, but it's one of the other guys. And he shared this idea of your thoughts don't exist unless you give them thought. And so there's no such thing as a good thought or a bad thought. So you're sitting there and you're letting your mind go blank. And as a thought pops up, he says, imagine yourself putting it in a bubble and just watching it float away, because that's all a thought is. Unless you give it actual thought, it's nothing. And so for about a minute when I wake up and a minute before I go to bed, I try to clear my mind and just observe myself, and I notice when I do it on a regular basis, I definitely am a lot more happy. So I just wanted to share that little thought with you all for this mindfulness moment and kind of maybe challenge you to give it a try. Try to sit there and just be with your thoughts for a minute a day and see if it helps you out.
Yeah, I like it. And sitting here listening to you explain kind of the process, um, I have done the same thing, kind of just that process of sitting and maybe not letting my mind go blank, because that's not something I've ever been able to do, regardless of how hard I try. But just what you said about letting thoughts just be what they are. There is no good thoughts. There are no bad thoughts. They're just thoughts. And it's, in a way, it kind of parallels another book I read by Mark Manson called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a I'll have to bleep that out.
There goes our family-friendly rating.
It's some of you may have heard of it. It's actually really popular. It's got like a 5-star review on Amazon and over 57,000 ratings. But he, in a less refined, kind of more raw way, takes the same approach. He says, basically, stop focusing on trying to force yourself to have positive thoughts. Just be present in the moment and recognize thoughts for what they are. So, sounds like it's a philosophy that's been around for a while, probably because it's effective and it's a good thing to practice.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us this week for our fun look at the simulation hypothesis. Join us next week, as most of the United States will be preparing to celebrate Thanksgiving. We wanted to take a look at the harvest season and where our food comes from, as we take a look into the agricultural industry.
Do you have a request for a subject that you'd like us to talk about on a future episode? Or is there a particular topic for which you have a passion and you'd love to come on the show as a guest? Either way, send an email to podcast@viewsfromtheworldtree.com or message us through one of our social media accounts, the links to which can be found on our new website, viewsfromtheworldtree.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Also, if you have a moment, we would appreciate if you leave us a rating on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. It makes a huge difference, especially for new podcasts.